In 2023, I went on a search to find the best indie bookshop in the UK. I am saying the UK, it's kind of more like the south of England, but we're going to keep the umbrella term of the UK. I had a great time doing so much that I wanted to do it all again. So this year, 2024, I'm going to be continuing that search. That is right, it is time for Cover to Cover Season 2, if you didn't guess that from the title of this video, which you probably did. Thank you so much for your support on Season 1 of Cover to Cover. It's helped to make Season 2 possible, and I couldn't be happier about that. There's going to be a couple of changes from Season 1. First off, last year I went to 10 different indie bookshops, whereas this year I'm going to be going to 6. Instead of getting a video monthly for this series, you're going to get one every other month starting in February, going towards the end of the year. I'm also going to be scrapping the rating system. We're not going to be rating these bookshops, it just doesn't feel right. We're just going to be talking about them and taking you on a tour, like taking you around the bookshops, making this as interactive as possible, buying some books, hauling those books, and then reading one of those books in this video. I'm still going to give that book a star rating, but I'm just not ranking the bookshops overall because it just doesn't feel like I need to do that. So the bookshop I'm going to be visiting today is Octavia's Bookshop in Cirencester. This is a bookshop that I visited years ago. I honestly can't really remember it, so it's going to be pretty fresh to me. I am really excited to head back. It's very distinctive from the outside. This one, it's really, really beautifully designed. It is predominantly a children's bookshop, however it does also have a section for adult books, for non-fiction, and for book club picks, so there is going to be a pretty decent mix there, but I cannot wait to take you along. The bookseller, Octavia, the owner, used to work at Octavias and then WATERSTONES before opening Octavia's Bookshop in 2011, and I love that because my parents met working in an Octavias bookshop, so I like that there's that little connection there. Since its opening in 2011, it's also gone on to win multiple awards, including, I'm going to read you the name of this one because I just think it's fun, the best bookshop in the Muddy Stiletto Award for the last 3 years, which is just great. It's also won the Best Children's Independent Bookshop in the Bookseller Industry Awards, so it's obviously going to be a fantastic bookshop, and I can't wait to take you along. Cover to Cover Season 2 is of course sponsored by National Book Tokens, who we love so much. Everything you need to know about them is linked down below, but National Book Token gift cards can be spent in bookshops across the UK and Ireland, from WH Smith to Waterstones. They can also be spent in hundreds of indies across the country. I am going to be bringing my Bookally gift card with me today, which has served me very well. This is the same one from last season, so this really lasts a long time. This is such a good gift. You can top it up monthly, so it can be a gift that lasts a little longer, or it can be a way to budget your book buying. It's fantastic, and similar to National Book Token gift cards, it can be used in indie bookshops across the country, including Octavia's Bookshop. When we go to the bookshop today, we are going to be looking at the atmosphere, the bookseller recommendations, the book selection, and the bookshop layout. I am so buzzed. Let's go to Cirencester and visit Octavia's Bookshop. Visiting Octavia's Bookshop felt like visiting somewhere in a fantasy world. The bold, bright colours and creative window displays really brought it to life and made it such a fun place to be. I can see why this is such a popular bookshop for children. As soon as you go in, books jump off the tables. There's a seated area and space for adults to browse too. The shop layout was open and spacious. There was one large table in the middle of the main floor with space to weave around, and a seated area against the windows to sit and browse your book choices. The back section had another seating area along with young adult and adult books, including classics, reference books, and a local section. It's no surprise the atmosphere was also fantastic, so welcoming and engaging. The bright colours and warm lights of Octavia's Bookshop bring it alive and make you not want to leave. Any bookshop with seating always feels more welcoming because they're literally inviting you to stay even longer. The book selection was really broad. Whilst this is predominantly a children's bookshop, there are also adult and non-fiction books, all of which had a pretty decent selection. There are so many books I could have taken home with me. The children's section was vast and spread across genre, and the adult books felt the same. There was new and old releases with some of my favourites too. A brilliant book selection. The bookseller recommendations were so perfect and thorough and delivered with a passion that made me want to buy them all. This bookshop already felt special, but its highlight has to be Octavia, the owner. She is the heart and soul of this bookshop and had so many amazing recommendations for me. One of my favourite places to be is sat in a chair in a bookshop as I browse book recommendations, and Octavia definitely gave me a lot to browse. She was instantly knowledgeable about the genres of books I was interested in and was so passionate about her recommendations, which made me even more desperate to read them. You can see the love and care Octavia has put into this bookshop. It shines through in not only the atmosphere atmosphere and the shop layout and the book selection, but also in how she is as a bookseller. I honestly had the best time visiting. This bookshop was beautiful, fun, and well worth a visit if you're passing Cirencester. Thank you, Octavias Bookshop, for having me. I don't think I've done too badly here. I got a pretty good book selection. The bookseller recommendations were on point. In fact, every single one of these was a bookseller recommendation. Let's start with Adults by Emma Jane Unsworth. I think this one's the one I'm most excited about because this is giving serious Dolly Alderton vibes. And the blurb is just enticing me. Jenny McLean can't afford her mortgage since her ex moved out, is about to get dumped by her best friend, and spends all day online stalking women with picture-perfect lives. And now her mother has appeared on her doorstep, unbidden, to save the day. Is Jenny ready to grow up and rescue herself this time? I like that this says, wait, hang on, where did it say it? A sharp, funny tale of trying to be yourself in the age of Instagram. I just think that that sounds really poignant and just spot on for something I would enjoy reading. I also got The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. This one, not the kind of thing I would usually pick up in the slightest. I'm going to tell you the way the bookseller summarised it to me because I feel like that's honestly more enticing than the blurb is. It's following a woman who is on holiday with her family, her husband. She's been married for quite some time, and she ends up completely randomly, I think, sleeping with somebody, or at least doing some bits with somebody by the poolside of the pond near where they're staying. And this book is about the 24 hours that lead up to that moment and why she does that. Now, I don't usually lean towards storylines that have affairs in them, but one of my favourite books of all time is The Bridges of Madison County, and that has an affair in it, and I really liked that book. So I want to see how this one goes. I'm really intrigued. All the reviews say how gripping it is, and it's out of my comfort zone, and that's the point of this video, so I got this one. I also got Oh Caledonia by Elspeth Barker. This is the one I'm going to be reading for this vlog. This one sounds very intriguing, but also the review from Maggie O'Farrell is not what sold me as such, but what made this one I think the most interesting to read in the video. And also Octavia, the bookseller, today said that this is the one that they would recommend the most out of the ones that I bought. I once decided to become friends with someone on the sole basis that she named Oh Caledonia as her favourite book, and that is the review from Maggie O'Farrell, which just makes me want to read it and find out why. So the blurb says, at the bottom of a great stone staircase, dressed in her mother's black lace evening dress, twisted in murderous death, lies Janet. So end the 16 years of Janet's short life. A life spent in a draughty Scottish castle where roses will not grow and a jackdaw decides to live in the doll's house. A life peopled by prettier, smoother-haired siblings, a nanny with a face like the North Sea, and the peculiar whiskey-swigging cousin Lila. A life where Janet is perpetually misunderstood and must turn from people to animals to books to her own wild and wonderful imagination. I think it sounds good. It's gothic. I'm there for it. And then the final book that I got is Kylie Reid's Come and Get It. I'm not a massive fan of the cover of this one. I like the font, not so much a fan of the piggy bank thing, but I feel like it makes sense for the plot of it. But this one sounds really good as well. Millie wants to graduate, get a job and buy a house. She's slowly saving up from her job on campus, but when a visiting professor offers her an unusual opportunity to make some extra money, she jumps at the chance. Agatha is a writer recovering from a breakup while researching attitudes towards weddings and money for her new book. She strikes gold when interviewing the girls in Millie's dorm, but her plan takes a turn when she realises the best material is unfolding behind closed doors. As the two women form an unlikely relationship, they soon become embroiled in a world of roommate theatrics, vengeful pranks and illicit intrigue, and are forced to question just how much of themselves they are willing to trade to get what they want. Sharp, intimate and provocative, Come and Get It takes a lens on our money-obsessed society in a tension-filled story about desire, consumption and bad behaviour. I haven't read Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, but I do actually have it up there on my shelves. I just haven't read it yet for some reason, so I picked this one up as well. This is my little haul. There we go. It's fine. Okay, this is the one I'm going to be reading in this vlog. I'm excited. I'll let you know my thoughts when I finished it. I have finished Oh Caledonia and oh, I loved it. This book was just so fantastic, so atmospheric and so beautifully written, and I felt so sad for the main character throughout. So we're following Janet in this, who we know from the start of the book and from the blurb of the book is found dead at 16. We don't know how, we don't know why, but we also know that this isn't a whodunit story. This is the story of her life and everything that took her to this point. And whilst it's not entirely a bad life, it's a sad life in places. There's a lot of times she goes throughout her life being misunderstood and treated very differently to all her siblings because of what she's like and who she is and what she enjoys. And her mum doesn't really know how to approach her with things, and like you can see that her parents just want to let her be who she is, but at the same time want to control certain aspects of that, and there's a real balance there going on. And that just comes across so well in this book and makes you just feel so sad for her that she just can't quite be understood, and you just know that this is all heading towards her death anyway. It's just even sadder because you know she's never going to be understood and that she's going to die in this kind of repetitive life of people just treating her in this way that just isn't great. I think the emotion in it is really there in that sense, and I think reading about Janet, she felt incredibly lovable and incredibly misunderstood, and I really enjoyed seeing her narrative perspective. I just loved the writing in this. I think it was done so beautifully and so brilliantly. It made me want to read it out loud sometimes because it felt like it was just a crime to keep these verses inside of my head only. And I just think it lent into the Gothic genre so well with the setting and the atmosphere. There's a conversation of ableism in various different parts in this book and the way that Janet responds to that. And I think that that has been done in a very deliberate way to highlight quite a few common elements of classic Gothic horrors. I've actually been looking into quite a few different articles about this because people have been having discussions about the mentions of ableism in this, because there was quite a few different moments that touched on a couple of different things, and there were words like hunchback Jim, hobgoblin or foul fiend. This is all coming from a blog that's put this together called Grace Lapointe, who's had this really interesting discussion about the need for this and why this is in here. Now, I hate anything that says hunchback because I have scoliosis, and that is like something that can cause that appearance, and I just don't like it when that's said because it just feeds into the stereotype. Sorry, I'm getting texts. But this article, so I'm just looking down at the article at the moment, this article makes a really interesting point. I just want to read it out because I was kind of reading it thinking like, why are these things being mentioned? Like, why do we need to have these things mentioned? This is written in the 90s, it's been republished in 2021. But the writer of this kind of had a similar thought process, and this, I'm just going to read you this paragraph. I initially wondered why this short novel spent so long describing disabled people as grotesque and sinister without even implicitly refuting this impression. Then I realised the ableism was the point. O Caledonia is a Gothic novel, and ableism is often a deliberate storytelling element in Gothic fiction. Like with Her Family's House, A Castle, the novel uses Jim's disability to create atmospheric foreboding or try to horrify or unsettle the reader. In Gothic fiction, disabled people are often objectified to suggest their external appearances match or symbolise their evil personalities. Both approaches would be blatantly ableist. I realise there's certain parts of this that I can't read aloud because they will spoil elements of the book for you, but it has some interesting discussions about the reasons that this was mentioned. I question whether there is a need for that or whether there's another way that you can get around this point, because whilst yes, the ableist villainization of any disabled characters is something that is a common trope within classic Gothic fiction, it, I think, is very much acknowledged that we're moving past that trope, hopefully, and there's books like Disfigured, which is a really interesting non-fiction book that talks about villains being represented with disabilities, and that's always just how you identify a villain and how wrong that is. And I think that this book is kind of trying to have a conversation that's similar by highlighting it as a Gothic trope, because the rest of this just fits so perfectly into all those Gothic tropes. It's like it ticked all of these boxes, including like even mentioning references to Edgar Allan Poe and having like a very much almost like a meta understanding within the book itself of the Gothic genre. I think that it's definitely done in a deliberate way, and I think that it is raising interesting conversations, and I think that any book that makes you have those conversations like I am having now is something that has put a purposeful thought into something to get readers talking and to highlight the fact that there is this flaw in the Gothic genre. I'm clearly having a conversation with myself about this and the use of it, and you know, I don't know what the answer is, but that is what this book includes, and I think that it is written just in a way that just flows so nicely and just will capture you. It's certainly slow paced, but it's very character development heavy. Well, not development, but like character focused, and going throughout the life of Janet and seeing her siblings and her interactions with her parents and her interactions with animals. There are a couple of different trigger warnings in this, I would say, so just check those out if you are interested in picking it up and you feel you would need to. I feel like I haven't coherently given you my thoughts on some of this, and I've just kind of been working them out as I've been speaking, but I don't really fully know what some of those thoughts are when it comes to, as I said, the ableism and the mentions in this book of certain things. I want to tell you more about it, but I don't want to spoil it for you. I can't tell you more, but you'll have to read it for yourself to find out. I do think it's a good book, and I think that I can see why Maggie O'Farrell on the front has said, I once decided to become friends with someone on the sole basis that she named Caledonia as her favourite book, because it just has such a unique style and tone. This is the only book by this author, which I feel like makes it hit even harder, and I don't think the author is alive anymore. Hang on. Have I made that up? No, she died in 2022. So yeah, we will never get any answers or further points from this book about the themes that it touches on. But I think it was really interesting. It's made me have some conversations with you guys. It's made me think about ableism in the Gothic genre and the need and requirement for that there. I mean, there isn't, is there? There isn't a need or requirement. It's not a discussion. There is literally not a need and requirement for that. And I think that that's what this book is having the conversation of as well. It's a great book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved visiting Octavia's bookshop. I had a great time generally, and I am so excited to be back with this series. This series is sponsored by National Book Tokens, who you can find all the information about linked down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.